I wish that I had had this conversation with you before going into that room.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Andrew. That was really lovely. That was great. My name's Jeff Raz. I'm one of the founders of the Medical Clown Project. I worked as a medical clown and as the artistic director for quite a while, a number of years, and now I am the co-chair of the board of directors.
And my name is Andrew. I know Jeff from many years. He was a teacher, an advisor, a mentor, and now I sit on the Medical Clown Project's board as a board member, and I'm also active in the Medical Clown roster, so I also do the clowning in hospitals. It's good to see you, Jeff.
It's great to see you, and I'm excited to have this conversation because a lot has changed in your life since we've sat down and talked. The thing I want to focus on is that you are a chaplain, and a chaplain in the same hospital as you're a medical clown. And I've heard you say a number of times that they're very similar. And that doesn't surprise me because we partnered with chaplains a lot when I was medical clowning. But the fact that you're in both roles fascinates me. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I have found that I started as a clown. So I went from clown into chaplaincy, so that's the way I entered into it. And I found as a clown the ability to listen, the ability to respond in the moment, the ability to be present with nothing, not to have some idea that you're going to go in. That those are some of the things that drew me to being a medical clown, was that your presence is all that's needed. And so then when I started my chaplaincy training, and you're right, I chose to do my chaplaincy training at Laguna Honda, where I'm also was doing a lot of clown work. I chose that because I wanted to really see how this dual role could work. And I found very quickly that it wasn't a dual role. It was a very similar role. Because as a chaplain, your job is to show up for people, to be present, to listen, and to have no agenda. And so those are where I find the interactions really mean a lot. And the more comfortable you are in your own skin, which medical clowning makes you do very quickly, because sometimes you're working in a room and nobody's laughing. Maybe nobody's responding at all. And so being comfortable in your own skin and knowing that you are bearing witness to them, that you're present with them, is exactly what you're doing in chaplaincy. A lot of the times you walk into a room where there is a lot of grief or trauma, and your job is to just bear witness and to be comfortable in your own skin as you take in everyone, taking their energy, taking what's happening.
Yeah, beautifully said. I have to say, I maybe some people, and maybe myself included, would say, wow, I didn't know. I thought a chaplain was supposed to come in and push religion on somebody. Mm-hmm. And a clown is supposed to go in and push funny on somebody. And you're making, to me, such a beautiful distinction that clowns are about listening, chaplains are about listening, and that image of being comfortable in your own skin. As I've been a performing clown for, as you know, 45 years, I'm just now finding what that really means on stage. Mm-hmm. And I learned it a lot from my work in the hospitals. Yeah. The reason they might not be laughing, like I'm remembering this one girl who we came in and she said, "Oh, you can come in, but I can't laugh because of the surgery that I'm getting. I can't laugh. It will rip open the stitches, whatever it was. So you can come in, but no laughing." For a clown, that's like, but your framework, that's perfect. Oh, right. I can listen and bear witness. Right. I didn't manage that as well. She didn't laugh. But I wish that I had had this conversation with you before going into that room, because in that short time you gave me so many ideas. Is there, now I know that you're also a pastor in a church, because I got to go to virtual service, right. And I loved the way you, as a pastor, you managed to give me, at least, lots of different ways to engage with you and with the rest of the congregation. including what you said was your favorite. It was my favorite, where at one point you said, we're coming off mute. It's going to be a mess. Everyone's going to greet each other. And we just greeted each other. And that wonderful thing where one of your congregants at the end was going to every person, hello, Andrew, God bless you. And she just had a few left. So that was the tail end. So the question I put on that is, you've been doing some virtual medical clowning. You've been doing some virtual, I don't know if you've been doing virtual chaplaincy, but certainly virtual religious work. What are the things you're using to make that work when it seems antithetical to being present in a room?
Yeah, right. That first thing, I miss being present in a room with folks, and so I think to honor that, just to make that very clear, it is not the same. And I think there's a way in which we have to identify the technology. We have to kind of recognize that, yep, this is what we're working in. Mm-hmm. And so naming the things that aren't going to go smoothly, naming when the technical things are going to be silly, naming when Zoom doesn't, a lot of the members of my congregation talk over each other, and some of them are on the phone, so they don't quite understand that we can't always hear everyone at the same time. And I'm actually starting another unit. I'm in chaplaincy class right now, and we're meeting on Zoom. And part of the reason why I wanted to take this class is because the whole class is chaplaincy over Zoom and the phone. And how do we look at each other through the camera? How do I read your body language when I'm not in the room? And so I think some of that is the world that we are existing in right now. Mm-hmm. I think part of that engagement too, maybe you can speak to this as well, is just that you have get comfortable in your own skin, because you're not hearing people react all the time. You're not hearing them laugh when they're muted. You're not getting, no, I got to talk, and I know I got to do the thing and stay engaged, and I have to be, what do we used to say in clowning? Don't be interesting, be interested.
From Avner Eisenberg, one of the great quotes.
Yeah. And so I think that comes in Zoom world, in being a medical clown or being a chaplain, is be interested in the person on the other side of the screen, be interested in who they are. And I think that's a lot easier when you love what you do, when what you do is your passion. So
yeah, and you've got beautifully, you've set yourself up with two passions. Your audio went a little funny there, but what I got from it, and I think, is that the basic concept is this medium of virtual really trains you to be in your own skin. That was, I think, the basic idea. It's a workout. Earlier you said this idea of naming it, which now I'm hearing your sermon in a different way. He's naming things all the way, which if I understand it, I'm Jewish, not Christian, but I understand there's a thing about naming that's a big deal in the early parts of the New Testament. It certainly is a core clowning idea. That is, if something happens, you just react in the moment. Mm-hmm. That's for any clowning, but certainly we know if a nurse comes in and you look and you see him with those eyes, you find a way to finish and leave. That is what's happening. That's not so much naming it, it's just reacting to the reality.
Yeah, but I think that you're correct in that it's the same awareness. Awareness what's happening in the room, awareness what's happening in the world, awareness of the systems that are in play in the hospital or in a church or in the society or in a community. Being aware of that, and then being able to say, like, this is not fair, or this is unhealthy, or this is great, or this is happening, allows everyone to go, oh, yeah, it is. We're not going to not talk about the thing, right? As a clown, it's not like you walk in and someone's doing something and you're like, well, let's not recognize that. No, that's part of the gift. And so I think that's the same thing about the naming, is accepting the gifts. Or standing up against the gifts if the thing that's being done is unhealthy or is a system that's oppressing people. Clowns would do the same thing. They would identify that and go, no, that's unacceptable.
Wow. So when you say that, I get a little nervous. I'm guessing that your work in chaplaincy and as a pastor will fortify that part of you. It's a moral part, a part that is feels that I have a platform to speak from. As a clown, I don't always feel that, but now that you've said that, I feel a little like, okay, that's my challenge.
Yeah. Who is the Russian clown with the pig and the Kaiser?
Durov, right.
I think about that often as a clown. Like,
yes,
I'm not making a political statement. I'm merely making comedy, and you're going to read all this political statement in there.
And you look at Durov, the Durov brothers, actually, and they have the trained animals, which Pavlov studied with them. So that Pavlov's dogs, that is still strong in Russian clowning and in Russian circus, the animal training. But you look at the way you just said it, they're the modern Durovs, maybe the Trevor Noahs, and the comics who have stepped into that. Maybe we clowns need to step a little more into that. With pigs or without pigs. There's a friction in one of the things you said. I just want to bring this up. When I walk into a room, a physical room, as a medical clown, and I have not been doing the virtual because I'm not doing shifts now. But when I walk in, there were certain things that I trained myself to ignore. And that is usually around the patient's condition. If they don't have legs, that's not my play space. That's it. They are a whole human being in every way. And so that was part of being comfortable in my own skin in the room with someone who may be shocking looking. So that is then goes against the idea you just laid out, which is we also speak to what's really happening there. How do you reconcile that? Or maybe you don't.
Yeah, no, I think that is part, I mean, what you were saying about ignoring it, you have to recognize it first, right? You're not just oblivious to not having, like, you're very aware that there's someone with this thing, and so I'm very aware of it, and I'm making a conscious choice that for this conversation, I'm going to not I'm not going to name it. But I think that the awareness is still there, especially as what you're describing. I think as a chaplain, this is some of the chaplain trainings, like you walk into a room, and I learned this as a clown too, but for something that stuck with me more when I was in chaplaincy training. And you walk in, you look around, you see all the books on their shelves, and you see what books they're reading, you see what paintings are up, you see if there's photos, if there's no photos, what's missing in the room. And so some of those things I've really, although we were trained to do it as clowns, it never stuck with me until I started doing chaplaincy. And all of that is awareness, and all of that is food for furthering conversation, or in the clown world, furthering play.
Your audio is starting to go a little bit.
Where you shouldn't go. I remember working on an Ash Wednesday. Sorry, Jeff. My internet connection is unstable.
I got you. Your audio went off just for a little bit. But okay, you're about to say you're working on Ash Wednesday.
And I remember turning to one of the other clowns and I said, I want you to know that all the dirt that's on people's forehead is a religious Catholic thing. Some Christians do it as well. Presbyterians, we do Ash Wednesday. And so there's going to be ash on their forehead. I just want you to know, not saying you can't comment on it or play with it. I just want you to know that that's where that history is. And so I think that's another kind of awareness.
Yeah, nice. We don't have time for it, but you did open up the fact that in San Francisco, in the Bay Area, we're working with people from hundreds of different cultures, language groups, and different relationship to the hospital, different relationship to illness, and different relationship to clowning. And part of that, the being able to navigate that becomes another part of our job. The clowns in Israel, the dream doctors, are a little more explicit about that. They consider themselves ambassadors between groups of people who don't usually see each other see each other as whole people. An interesting sidelight. At the end here, though, we've been very serious. You and I, who are both professional clowns, been very serious. How does there's got to be some laughter in there. It's not the goal. It cannot be the goal of a medical clown to get that laugh, as we discussed. Where does it come in as a clown, but also as a medical clown, but also as a chaplain?
Yeah, great question. In clown school, under your tutelage, when we were writing some mission statements or talking about why we do what we do, I discovered that my kind of working mission statement is to discover heaven on earth through laughter. So I believe that laughter, when people said, well, when you picture God and you're praying, what are you praying to? And I said, I pray to the sound of laughter. I don't know what that all means. I'm still processing that, but it does play a keen role in what I believe to be a healing presence. The joy, the healing, the hope, the grief, the laughter that comes out of grief. And it's this thing that ripples in community. It's a community experience. And so I think those are some of the ways in which laughter is integral in how I understand the meta world, the world bigger than I can understand, is how I put some language around it. And also that it's very real and it's tangible between two people in a way that we laugh together.
Well, that was beautiful. That's a great place to stop.
Okay.
Stop there.
Well, Jeff, thank you for your time today and for asking me questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to ask you questions, and another time.
That was great. I loved it.
That's for Calvin. We waved at each other, which is what Calvin wanted at the end.